Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about the next 5 books that I have read this year. The first book is Orlando by Virginia Woolf. This is my first Virginia Woolf, and I don't know what to think about her or the book sometimes. I'm very excited that I finally got around to reading Virginia Woolf, but I think this is an author, at least for this book, that I might need to revisit to really take my time and analyze what I think I just read, to maybe just revisit it a few times. Maybe every time that I read it I'll see something that I didn't before. This is a story about Orlando who at the start of the book, he's a nobleman in Queen Elizabeth's court, and something happens that he wakes up one day and is a woman in a different time. And this happens about 3 times in the book, where Orlando sort of goes forward in time until she becomes a modern woman, which I think is somewhere in like the 30s or something. I can't remember. I can't even remember. But there's a lot of beautiful exploration of gender expectations. Everyone just sort of seems to accept that Orlando is now a woman, and they treat her as such. There is, like I said, there's beautiful exploration of when Orlando starts to live her life as a woman. She kind of compares how she was back when she was a man and how men react to her, and she just finds the societal sort of gender expectations to be very ridiculous. And there's some beautiful moments there when that's explored, but overall I felt that there was a lot of overwriting in this book. A lot of times I felt like there was a disconnect between me and what was going on. I didn't really understand what was going on or why anything was happening. We were in Orlando's head so much that things sort of happened and I missed them, or I didn't really understand why we got to where we were at, or why it was that we were where we were at. And then the ending left me a little flabbergasted, and so I don't really know what to think about this book. I at times I found it boring and I didn't really want to continue. I'm definitely very glad that I read Virginia Woolf, and I will give her another chance, because there were some parts when I was really able to get what she was trying to tell me that were really beautiful, and there was something special there. I just think that for me personally, I need to give her more time, give her more chances, and sort of see where I lie after that has happened. This is definitely an interesting one, and if you're in for very weird fiction, then give it a try. Then I read Krista Dora by Tim Murphy. This is a book that has multiple perspectives and multiple time jumps. So if you like that, which I do, then you might like this a lot. A lot of it takes place during the 80s. It sort of takes place during the 80s, 90s, and then 2000s, focusing on this one building, Krista Dora, on the Lower East Side? Yeah, so Lower East Side of Manhattan, and we follow different characters that have been tied to this Krista Dora building, and we follow them in the past and in the present, and how this building has brought them all together, what each of their separate lives has been, what they've all done for throughout their careers, and how they've all connect to each other. And it is a very beautiful story. We talk about so many different important topics, everything from the mistreatment of the AIDS epidemic in this country, all the hard work that was done by the LGBTQIA community for that, all the hard work that they had to do, all the fights that they had to fight to sort of get it the attention that it needed, the funding that it needed, the horrible effect that drugs have in the communities of color and queer communities in New York, and then I guess that can be taken up in a macro scale to how they affect those communities in the United States. It's about love, it's about sexual exploration, it's about women and how they're treated within groups and within revolutions. And I really loved this book. It follows a young Afro-Puerto Rican kid, the two Jewish parents who adopt him. It follows a Puerto Rican gay man who was an AIDS advocate and now has fallen to a drug addiction. It follows a woman who was part of the health department and how she's involved with all of them, and all of their stories connect in really beautiful, complex ways. All of these characters are very complex and well developed, and I enjoyed it so much. There are multiple redeeming arc character developments, which are some of my favorite to read about. I thought at first when I was reading it that there are a lot of unlikable qualities to a lot of these characters. They're all very complex in their own way. But I thought at first that the only ones who were going to be just like unredeemably unlikable were going to be the characters of color, but thankfully that's not the case. So I think the story is beautiful, but the writing is just, it is okay. It's very sort of normal and not, there's nothing overly descriptive or flowery about it. It's kind of to the point, which is fine because there was a lot going on and I never felt disengaged or disconnected or like I didn't know who was what or whose voice was which, and I just really like that. I think it tells a very important story and I definitely recommend it. I also read, let me get the full title. It is The Trauma Cleaner, One Woman's Extraordinary Life in the Business of Death, Decay, and Disaster. And this is by Sarah Krasnostein, and it is about the life of Sandra Pankhurst. And so one of the critiques that I've seen about it is that the title is a little bit misleading. So it talks about one woman's extraordinary life in the business of death, decay, and disaster. And it doesn't so much deal with the business side of her as a trauma cleaner so much as her as an individual, as a person, how she got to be where she is. And I guess maybe if you sort of want to stretch that a little bit and consider it the business of her dealing and cleaning and overcoming her own trauma and her own disasters and the disaster and the trauma that have been present in her life, then you can think about it that way. But if you're reading that title and you see the cover, which is a cleaning glove, then you think, okay, well, this is going to be a story about a woman and how she got into this business and why she does what she does and how it all works. And it's not really like that. We get bits and pieces of that throughout, but not, it doesn't, it's, I wouldn't say it's the major focus of the book. The major focus of the book is really exploring the life of Sandra, all of the horrible trauma that she's had to deal with. Definitely content warning for child abuse, for sexual assault, just horrible trauma. Oh, also in Krista Dora as well, drug overdose. I'm trying to think if there's sexual assault. I can't remember off the top of my head, but definitely lots of drug use in this one. So yeah, yeah, this is just a very like adult book. So if you don't like that, some sex scenes, maybe don't read it if that's not up your alley. But you really I really did enjoy this book overall because Sandra is an absolutely amazing human being, very unique and very fascinating. She has overcome what seem like unsurmountable obstacles in her life and has come out on top. She has her own business. She shows an incredible amount of empathy in her job and in the people that she deals with. She deals with a lot of people who have mental disabilities, who there's like horrible hoarding, and so she deals with a lot of that, and the amount of empathy and care that she demonstrates for these individuals is absolutely beautiful to read about. But it really is the story of her and her overcoming all of these obstacles, how horribly she was treated as a child, her her realizing and sort of developing her sexuality, how a bit in the process of as a trans woman, how her life, how that has played into her life and into her decisions, how it affected her family because she was married and had kids at one point. And I think it was beautifully written. I think it was beautifully told. I think Sandra's life like I said, fascinating to read about, and I definitely recommend it. But don't go into it thinking that you're going to get like a how-to or anything like that about here's what she did to get this type of business and this is the type of work that she does. Like I said, you get a little bit of that here and there, but that's not really the main focus. It's about trauma. It's about overcoming that. It's about mental health. It's about sexuality. It's about discrimination against trans individuals. It's a very complex story about a very complex life, and I really, really enjoyed listening to everything that the author had to say about Sandra and her life. Then I read another story about a trans woman, and it is Redefining Realness, My Path to Womanhood, Identity, Love, and So Much More by Janet Mock. Janet is a half black, half Hawaiian woman. She was a journalist, or is a journalist, and now a writer, and it's her life. It's about, again, her discovery of her sexuality, of how she didn't feel herself in the body that she was born in, and her journey, her transition, everything like that, everything that she had to go to achieve her goal, how it's affected her life with her family, her love life, and it is beautiful. It was such a powerful, compelling story, such an honest and raw story as well, that I really just loved hearing her story, loved hearing her voice. I listened to it on audiobook, and she is the narrator, and it feels very personal when especially when it's a memoir, when authors read it themselves, because you sort of forget that you're reading a book and you just feel like they're talking to you personally, and that's exactly what this felt like. This was very very raw, very honest, and I really appreciated everything that she had to say, and I definitely recommend it as well. And then last but not least is Red Clocks by Lenny Loomis. And this, I got this through Book of the Month, and this has been making its way around. And this is a story about modern USA. Personhood laws have come into effect. Abortion is illegal. There is this concept called the pink wall, in which women cannot go into Canada to get any sort of reproductive health care that may lead to an abortion. Things like in vitro fertilization is banned. So yeah, personhood amendments grant rights of life, liberty, and property to every embryo. Personhood laws absolutely terrify me. And so I was very excited to read this book, but at the same time, I always have this very this horrible bleakness and negativity that falls over me whenever I'm reading anything that's either post-apocalyptic or it's dystopian or anything along those lines. Always scares the crap out of me, and this one did even more because it feels so real and it feels so possible, and it feels like it could literally happen tomorrow. And so we follow four different women, and they don't really name themselves. We find out their names through their interactions with the other women. So we have the biographer, we have the daughter, we have the wife, and we have one other one, the mender. And so this is about how all of their lives come together when the mender is accused of of manslaughter, I believe, for trying to help a woman who said that she was trying to get an abortion and the mender was the one who gave it to her. And it then is how through that trial and through their lives, they all live in this small town, how all their lives come together. And this book was written beautifully. There were some parts of it that felt so minimal, like she just used the least amount of words possible, but was still able to convey so much. And I loved that so much. I loved how I felt that fear of, oh my God, this can happen tomorrow. Tomorrow, women can lose complete autonomy over their bodies. And given what's going on in the Supreme Court and everything like that, this could very well happen tomorrow. And it just felt so poignant and so real and so just present. And I really, really loved it. I loved all of their points of view. If you like multiple perspective stories, if you like multiple perspective stories, then you will enjoy this one. If you like stories that deal with feminism and strong female, complex female main characters, then you will enjoy this one. It is riveting. There's the mysterious aspect of what really happened to the woman that is accusing the mender. There is beautiful relationships that are created with some of the characters. There are very significant questions that are brought up about women and how they feel about themselves and their bodies, and how do some women really want children, or do they feel like it's a societal expectation for them? There's like, what is okay for a government to do, and to step in and sort of take over the bodies of women, people who will never have to experience the things that women have to experience. There's so much in what is relatively a short book. I got through it. It's very, very quick read. I really, really love this. It scared the shit out of me, and I think that's kind of what it's supposed to do. And I definitely recommend it. That sounds like it would be up your alley. Definitely give it a go. It won't take much time. You can zip right through it. So yeah, those are the last-ish 5 books that I have read. I've read a lot of cozy murder mysteries, and I've read a lot of graphic novels, but I want to do 2 separate videos on just those, so look out for those. Those should be coming your way soon. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. Let me know if you have read any of these and what you thought. And yeah, love you guys.